This morning I want to talk to you about Christmas returns. We've already talked about returning Santa because I think Santa was a complete mistake. We've talked about the fact that it comes back to us every year to take us to the place where we recall what's really significant in our world. And as we've talked through the reason for the season, we've come to conclude that there's something special going on. That you could take all the power of the universe, put it in a baby, deliver it to earth. It's pretty amazing. That Jesus would come and risk everything to give us just the opportunity to choose him. As we wrap up a little bit today, we'll put a bow on this since it's Christmas. And I want to talk to you about this experience, this opportunity for intimacy with God from the beginning of the text to the end. Shouldn't take me more than an hour and a half to get through that. So we're talking about Christmas returns today, God with us. What was everybody seeking? What was everybody after? They were after a relationship, a connection, something that made a difference in their life that lasted more than one day or a few hours. You all know how it goes. Have you ever bought a gift for a little kid? And they've taken the gift, they got it out, they seemed very excited, and when they were done, they played with the box. It happens. It happens. We all have a little bit of anxiety about gift giving, right? Because we want that thing to be special. If you haven't finished your Christmas shopping, you may be feeling a little anxious, but do not worry. Tomorrow is Guy's Day at the mall. There's nobody there. It's peaceful, quiet. You can walk into a store and not stand in line. You can talk to an actual human being about what you want. I recommend it every year. But I want to take you to the text that was read a few minutes ago. In the New Testament, as they're trying to describe what's going on, Matthew and Luke give us some things to think about. Matthew, in his specific way, his common way, he points to the prophets every time he's trying to talk to us about something significant. And he said all of this was done, and all of the things that were done, and visits from angels and things of that nature happening with Mary and Joseph. All of this was done to fulfill the Lord's message through the prophet. Look, the virgin will conceive a child. She will give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, God with us. God with us. That's what I really want to talk about. God with us. Us. You, the person next to you, the guy down the street you don't even like, God with us. The neighbor next door, your person you didn't get a gift for this year, the person you'd really like to send coal to, God with us. The God of the universe connecting with man. The God of the universe being the reason, being the experience, being what all of us are looking for. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that Christmas pressure, God's perspective. Can you imagine how much pressure the angels put on God during this whole season? Can you imagine how crazy they thought this idea was? The Godhead is getting ready to explain the story to the angels. Gabriel's getting specific last-minute instructions. You'll find this girl. She's in Nazareth. She's not going to be sticking out. She's not going to be all that different. She will be different for her non-difference. And when you talk to her, be nice to her. Her name is Mary. She's been looking for the Messiah. Yes, I know she's very young. To me, this whole scene seems like something out of It's a Wonderful Life. As the angels and God start to speak, the angels must continuously wonder, are you really going to do this? Are you serious about this? You know these humans are not very trustworthy. And you're talking about a girl who's barely old enough to be having a child. Remind me again how you're going to get into 2 cells. Okay. If you're determined, we're here to support you, but let the record show we voted no on the whole idea. The perfect gift. And yet, the craziest gift that's ever been given. Gentlemen, do you feel Christmas pressure? Most of us are not very good at getting great gifts. Is that true, ladies? You don't have to say anything. You can have this quiet head nodding inside that you don't have to let your husband, your girlfriend, your boyfriend see. If you want to see it, come with me to the mall tomorrow. While we're strolling along, look at the frantic looks on some of those men's faces. Because they're looking for the kind of gift that will be memorable and impactful and share the heart they really feel. They know this person fairly well. They've been hanging around with her for a long time. They were trying to pay attention all year for what she might want, but they're not really sure that they can clearly identify what that might be. And so everybody's feeling a little pressured. I want you to imagine the whole Garden of Eden story. God forms man out of the dust of the earth, breathes into him the breath of life, and man becomes a living soul. Man becomes a human. Man becomes a live being in that moment. And God knows this guy so well. He knows him so well that he has pre-built his home. He has prepared a place for him. And it's going to be so amazing that God can hardly contain himself to show it to him. Have you ever known that you had the right gift? Nobody? Just nod your head if you've ever known you've had the right gift. All right? The feeling that morning, the feeling that day, is the feeling God had. The anticipation, you can hardly wait for them to open it. Up until the time I was about 10, I always had the right gift. Always. And I always anticipated it being opened. Because I was 10. It was right. Imagine for a moment the next thing God does. He takes this guy and he takes him into the garden he has made for him. And he says, take a look around, buddy. This is all for you. And the smile on Adam's face said it all. Because God knew exactly what the man would want. Because God knew the man, listen to this next word, intimately. He knew his thoughts, his heart, what things would make his heart beat faster, what things would make his eyes bug out, what it would be to really bless this man. He pre-made the home for the man, then he placed the man in the garden. I wish that would have lasted longer, but I don't want to get to that yet. God, the Bible says, formed the man. Formed the man out of the dust of the earth and breathed into him the breath of life. Everything else in the creation story, except the man and the woman, is spoken into existence. But for the sake of the intimate connection between God and man, God formed the man. And then he does one of the most incredible things in the whole of Scripture. He gets down close and he breathes into him the breath of life. Before the breath of life entered man, there was no life. All the chemistry was there. All the biology was there. All the physiological connections were there. But until God breathed into him the breath of life, there was no man. It took an intimate interaction with the Creator for the man to be alive. When God talks about the forming of the woman, it says that he built her. The Hebrew word is something like built, put her together, made all of these things. It's the same kind of idea as Adam being formed, but in this case, it's got a simple change, something about her being made by God, but being built, being formed in a manner that was both personal, connected, intimate, and preparatory, because she's the final surprise for the guy, and the guy and the garden are going to be the first surprise for her. You see, he didn't make this garden just for the man. He made the garden for the woman because he knew the woman was coming. He just had the man get his mind around the idea that he needed something. There's a whole sermon there, but I better stop. And then he formed the woman. He built the woman. And as certainly as I am standing here, she was an inanimate object until he breathed into her the breath as well. He formed the man, and breath brought him to life. Built the woman, and breath brought her to life. And the man and the woman were in paradise. Not your imagined paradise, not Kauai, not Bali, not the top of some God-forsaken mountain for those of you who are into that sort of thing. But the real, actual paradise, the place that had everything a human being could imagine or want. That have every element prepared for these people. And God placed them there. Not a bad deal. Seems like a good place to hang out. Seems like it might have been a good place to spend the rest of your life and slowly expand the space as children were born. Till they covered the whole planet, I would guess. But you know the story. You know how this thing goes. They go to the devil's fruit stand. They believe the lie he's selling. They buy the whole thing. And the most significant thing they do is they begin to doubt God. And the intimacy that gave them life is broken. And a change takes place. And death begins. Because they've lost the connection with the one who provides life. Because they don't trust him anymore. Because they're not sure they want him anymore. On the other side of the ledger is God. He knows what's just happened. He knows the break in the intimacy. He knows what that will cost him. And yet, Adam and Eve, in this freaked out state, hear the sound of the Lord walking in the garden. I wonder how that was. What was that sound? Did he whistle while he walked? Did he sing while he walked? Did he make new things? Boo, 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 boo. Hey, they really like that. Whew. New color rose with pink stripes. How did they know? What did they hear? Was he calling out to them? Was he just coming? Was the presence of God such that it was not only a presence, it was a sound? Did having God come into the garden fill all of their senses? Could they feel him coming? Could they hear him coming? Could they smell him coming? As he rolls into the garden, Adam and Eve start looking for a place to hide. Because now, what was an intimate connection between God and them has become a fear-based relationship where they will have to overcome what has broken in them. The intimacy that created life in them has been broken. And now they're ashamed and they're afraid. Crazy, huh? But the God who was lied about, the God whose freshly minted, coolest creation ever, just believed the lie and did the one thing he asked them not to do. He shows up. He shows up like he apparently did regularly in the cool of the day to reveal his heart to them, to let them get to know him, to touch them, to reveal himself, to regain the lost intimacy. Gentlemen, if you are struggling with your relationship, with your spouse, with a girlfriend that you're serious about, go for a walk. You may think that's crazy, but after nearly 40 years of marriage, going for a walk is a really good idea. It's really good for you because you don't want to stare in her eyes and have a 40-minute conversation anyway. But you're willing to walk along and shoulder to shoulder, share yourself. You see, what God did when the intimacy of the relationship that he had just created, that was just born, when that got broken, he showed up to walk with them. If you're struggling with your walk with God, go for a walk. Walk someplace beautiful. Go to a park. Go to a place near your house where you just enjoy it. Go walk through some Christmas lights if you want, but walk with God there. Keep your eyes, your heart focused on God and his revelation and what he's got for you in that moment, what he's whispering to you through the things that are around you and maybe through your own voice in your head that's so quiet that it can't be ignored. Go for a walk. The solution to sin, day one, was a walk. He showed up to walk next to man through what they were feeling, to help them deal with their fear, help them deal with their anxiety, help them deal with their shame. He showed up. God was with us. He was Emmanuel. God came to deal with sin by bringing back the relationship. God came to restore the intimacy by taking a walk with a broken couple. He came to restore that intimacy by revealing himself. Because it was a lie about him that they bought that cost the intimacy. They believed he couldn't be trusted, and when they believed he couldn't be trusted, you and they stepped back. Because when we can't trust someone, we move away. We take ourselves in. We pull back our heart. We pull back ourselves. We won't loan them anything. We won't give them anything. We won't call them for anything. We won't even ask them to help us with anything because we don't trust them because they're untrustworthy. And the relationship is severed if there ever was one. If you've broken trust with someone, how do you restore it? Time revealing the truth of your character. A statement about needing forgiveness from you that's real, that allows them to extend a little piece of themselves back. And then it will take time. It will take lots of time if it's a big issue, less time if it's a small issue, but it will take time walking together with them where they can begin to look into your eyes and see if you're telling the truth. They will begin to look into your heart and see if you're telling the truth. They will begin to slowly extend to you little bits of themselves in hope that you will manage it properly. And you will have to prove yourself trustworthy. That's the way we're made. That's how God came to deal with the problem. Does this all make sense to you yet? None of this is out of character for a normal human relationship. All of this is the same things that we have to do now. Those are the things God came and did because God knew what we needed even after we were broken. And He still does. He still does. The whole Bible is God in search of people to reveal Himself to. The whole Bible is just God going and finding a person to talk to. Would you listen to me? No, okay. Would you listen to me? No, okay. Would you listen to me? Okay, can we talk? That's all it is. You watch, you look. Think about it when you're reading it that way. Even when the nation of Israel is being built, God is building a people who will trust Him, who can share that heart, that heartbeat with the rest of the world. About 1,800 years after those words were written, after that first relationship was described to mankind, and mankind's search for God began, and God's search for a hearing, listening ear began, He met a girl. She wasn't much of a girl, from what we understand, poor, young, betrothed to a guy, though. And church history has Joseph being older. I don't think so. Pardon me, all you church historians, but you're trying to make your theology work. My thinking about this, and allow you to let me be wrong if you want. But maybe I'm not. I don't think Joseph was an old man with a young wife. I think Joseph was a young man with a young wife. Because if he was an old man getting a young wife, he would have already had a place for her. He would not have had to have a long engagement for the purposes of building a place for her. If this is his second wife, he already has a spot for her. So don't let the whole idea that he's some ancient 30-year-old. He meets a girl, and he sends an emissary to the girl, Gabriel, one of the covering cherubs, one of the angels closest to God. Gabriel was sent by God to a city of Galilee named Lazarus. Don't miss the introduction. Gabriel was sent by God to Nazareth because he wanted him to talk to the girl. He had found the one who was willing to do the craziest thing any human had been asked to do, to participate in bringing God physically into the world. Ladies, I've never been pregnant. Those of you who have had children, there has to be a moment when that freaks you out. At least the first time. No? Just nod if it's true. Because I can't imagine it wouldn't be. This half of the room, ladies, those of you who had children, was there a moment when it freaked you out? Just this is yes. Some of you were saying, no, it was cool, I was good with it all the whole time. I just sat there and said, it's growing and I'm going to get it out. It's awesome. I can't imagine passively carrying a baby inside you. And this young woman was asked to carry God inside of her. This virgin was betrothed to a man whose name was Joseph, who wasn't an ancient 30-year-old. He was probably a guy closer to her age, as far as I can tell. Betrothed means that she's already engaged. And God is about to tell her, you're going to have a child and it won't be Joseph's. The angel says to this virgin named Mary, here's what the plan is. God is going to hover over you by the presence of his Spirit, and you're going to become pregnant. And don't ask me to explain that because you don't have enough biology yet for me to be able to tell you. This virgin named Mary, when the angel came to her, he said to her, I love it. Angel shows up at your house, angel, wah, bright lights and all that. And he says, rejoice. I might have ran for the door. Highly favored one. You are the woman we've been waiting for thousands of years. Awesome. He tells her about the baby. He tells her all that's going to come. And she says, okay, let it be to me according to your word. They got the right girl. Because most of you would have ran screaming into the dark or night or whatever was outside, right? And most of us would have went, no way, out. And this girl says, I'm cool with it. Sure. I'm going to have God in about 9 months. No problem. Let it be done. Does a Christmas story ever strike you as like, huh? Sometimes we hear it so much that we forget how astonishing it is. Her, God, the whole story. This is an amazing event. This is an amazing response. There is nothing normal about the whole story. Everything here is wild beyond our understanding. But you gotta love it. Because we're right back to God doing the same thing he did in the garden when things got broken. He's gonna show up and reveal himself to those who don't trust him. If you are having trouble with your relationship with God, that's what he wants to do. He wants to show up, hang out with you, and let you discover that he can be trusted. In a broken world, in a messy system where bad things happen to good people all the time, and good things happen to bad people all the time, and none of us can explain why that works that way. But he says, if you are questioning, I'll be happy to come and walk with you until you become comfortable that I can be trusted. Angel shows up at her house and says, we're going to make you the mother of God. And she says, okay. Behold, the virgin shall be with child and bear a son. They should call his name Emmanuel, which is translated God with us. Did you ever sing the Emmanuel song? O come, Emmanuel. You can't say Emmanuel when you're thinking about this song. We just have to say Emmanuel. O come, Emmanuel. Have you ever thought about this being a second coming song, not a first coming song? Because he's already come. Why are we saying, oh, come? See, we're singing about the first advent, and we're asking for the second advent. Because the answer to the sin problem is the same answer it was on day one. It's God showing up and clearing up the mess. At some point I will talk to you about all the space in between and why it had to take so long. But that's not today. That's the hour and a half message. But when God chose to change the situation, when he chose to step into the mess we found ourselves in, when the Romans were in charge of everything in their world, when the Romans were not favorable to their faith, and God knew that in about 100 years, they would drag every Israelite they could find out to the edges of the Roman Empire and shut the place down and call it by a new name and hope that it never came back, like a weed in the garden. And with all of that, he showed up and said, I just want to be with these people. I just want to be with these people. When Jesus was on the cross, and Hebrews speaks to us and says, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. What was the joy? One day, there will no longer be a relationship break between man and God. That's the joy. That's his joy. That's his desire. That's why he keeps showing up. You know when you do dumb stuff and you have that voice inside your head, that convicting voice? That's God just showing up. And he hangs around even after you don't want to confess, you don't want to deal with it, you don't want to talk to him about it. He still hangs around. And he wants to walk with you, and he'll start walking with you, and he'll keep walking with you, and he'll keep hanging out with you, and he'll walk with you and walk with you and walk with you and walk with you until finally you realize he's not leaving. You might as well talk about this. Sometimes, maybe all of the time, he wants our time and attention. And if he can get our time and our attention, he can transform our present by granting us restored intimacy with him. The return of God in day one of sin to the garden to walk with Adam and Eve was him revealing himself to the broken relationship. The coming of Jesus 2,000 years ago onto our planet as a human being was him showing up to reveal his character so that he might restore the intimacy. And on the last day, when the trumpet sounds and the Bible says the heavens are parted, rolled back, I don't even know what that looks like. I'd like to see it though. It is God returning to the planet to take into his hand and his heart any and everyone who is willing to have that intimacy restored. O come, Emmanuel. I've asked Mike that we get a chance to sing that song. But before we do, would you pray with me? Father, sometimes this sounds so crazy and so easy. Yet we have a difficulty with it. We keep struggling to trust you. We keep hiding from you. We keep doing the same things our founding fathers did. When Adam and Eve ran off to hide in the bushes, we were there with them in their DNA. Thank you for being willing to become one of us to help us understand that you love us. Thank you that in spite of the severed and broken relationships of our world, we may have God with us. We look forward to the day when those relationships are no longer severed. Amen.